Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Roberto Corona. I am an Italian anthroposopher and astrologer, and in this video we're going to talk about the next full moon in Capricorn on June the 30th. This is going to be a very important moon because it activates a couple of transits that we've discussed in previous videos. I am referring to Mercury retrograde in Cancer and the big news, Jupiter's ingress in Leo, which will happen on the very same day as the full moon. Now, with this full moon, we officially enter the summer season, which began with the sun's ingress in Cancer, that is, on summer solstice. According to anthroposophy, summer is ruled by the forces of Uriel, the stern archangel of old Saturn, who urges us to keep at bay the sulfurous excesses of summer. In this regard, a very complex summer awaits us, since not only will Mercury be retrograde for much of July, but in August we will also have two eclipses scheduled for August 12 and 28 respectively. Below, I also included the virtue to meditate on during the Sun's transit in Cancer, indicated by Rudolf Steiner, which is unselfishness that becomes catharsis. Catharsis being a form of purification. As always, let's take a look at the calendar to understand what changed in the sky since the last new moon in Gemini on June 15. As we have indicated, on June 21, the Sun entered Cancer, the day of summer solstice, whereas on the 28th, Mars enters Gemini. Now, this is a very important ingress that we have already discussed in the video of Jupiter in Leo, because Mars is going to be joining Uranus in their conjunction, and their conjunction is quite intense. Now, following, we have the two most important news of the month, to which we have already dedicated a couple of videos. Again, on June 29, Mercury turns retrograde in Cancer, whereas on June the 30th, the same day as the full moon in Capricorn, Jupiter enters Leo. Okay, let's tackle the chart of the full moon in Capricorn, where we can immediately spot both Mercury retrograde in Cancer and Jupiter. Jupiter is also in Cancer at 29 degrees and 56 minutes on the so-called anaretic degree, and it is just about to enter Leo. So I remind you that this Mercury will not be able to reach Jupiter because Mercury is going to stop, it is going to turn retrograde, so it is going to be frustrated by this, by the fact that he's not going to reach for a benefic planet. Again, you can watch my video about it, and on top of that, Jupiter entering Leo is going to make an opposition to Pluto here and a sextile with Uranus, but of course with Mars too. So this conjunction, again, is quite explosive. You can watch my video about Jupiter in Leo to learn more. Now, the full moon is located at 8 degrees and 14 minutes Capricorn in the stereo image of Sagittarius up here. And specifically, the moon is sitting on the image of the archer's bow. And this is very important from a spiritual perspective. Unfortunately, being in Capricorn, of course, the moon is ruled by the Lord of Capricorn, by Saturn. And Saturn is here in Aries, the zodiac sign of its fall. Now, this is not good, but on top of that, Saturn is also closing the two luminaries with a T-square configuration, meaning that Saturn is making a square on the one hand with the moon and on the other with the sun as well. And finally, the moon is also making a square with Neptune as well, which is also in Aries. So let's now tackle the meanings of the chart, which describes a rather tense situation. From the physical perspective, a full moon in Capricorn is all about clarifying, revealing, and disclosing all things related to Capricorn signification. So we have the full moon, clarify and revealing Capricorn things, right? So in general, Capricorn represents the government, states, and all large organizations such as multinational corporations, and supervisory and regulatory bodies as well. Therefore, we can expect that their actions will be brought to light by this full moon, and especially all the harmful things that they are doing. Why is that? Because the ruler of Capricorn, Saturn, is debilitated in the zodiac sign of Aries. So here we are, technically speaking, talking about undignified actions such as abuse of justice or imposition by force, which are Saturn in Aries significations. This can also apply to our workplace, since Capricorn, as we know, reminds us of the work dimension. Now, the fact that this tense configuration coincides with Mercury retrograde in Cancer and Jupiter's ingress into Leo can lead to and/or cause misunderstandings, arguments, and communication problems, as well as lead to that conflict between the common people and the powerful that we have discussed in the Jupiter in Leo video. And in this regard, our thoughts immediately turn to the situation in Albania. Now, from a soul perspective, the full moon in Capricorn asks us, perhaps even a little harshly, to achieve full autonomy and self-determination in achieving our personal goals. Endurance, discipline, and a sense of responsibility are all positive aspects of Capricorn that we can take advantage of. And it should be noted that this self-determination can also generate, I would say, a sense of loneliness sometimes, which indeed, with Mercury retrograde in Cancer, may also encourage some of you to return back home and reunite with family because you feel you're doing all by yourself. For others, however, this loneliness could stem from really having argued with the family itself, and precisely because of Mercury retrograde. So it really depends if we are embracing this Mercury retrograde with the returning, coming back signification, or with the misunderstanding form of manifestation. In general, the advice here is to make the most out of the Saturnian forces so as to put them at the service of achieving our personal goals, especially professional ones. And finally, from a spiritual perspective, the full moon shines in the stereo image of Sagittarius, which in astrosophy is the constellation of the Archai, that is, the spirits of time, the spiritual entities that determine the so-called zeitgeist. From a spiritual perspective, this means that all the challenges brought by Mercury retrograde in Cancer, by Jupiter's ingress into Leo, they contain within themselves the potential to infuse Capricorn. So to infuse governments, institutions, and multinationals with spiritual impulses that allow them to align themselves more closely with the so-called spirit of time that is up here in the stereo image of the archer. Now, in particular, the full moon is sitting on the bow of the archer, who aims and shoots an arrow upward toward the sun. And this is a sign of aiming toward a higher evolution. And in this regard, anthroposophy has already planted many seeds, such as the threefolding of the social organism for the renewal of politics, the economy, and society in general, as well as biodynamic agriculture for the renewal of our relationship with the land, Waldorf pedagogy, of course, for the renewal of education, and so on. Obviously, not only anthroposophy, but all spiritual movements that inspire society to create new structures that are aligned with the spiritual needs of our time have this opportunity, the opportunity to infuse with their spiritual impulses the forces of Capricorn and this structures as well. As always, thanks for watching. If you want to support my work, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell not to miss out on future astrological insights. I am Roberto Corona. See you in the next video.